I'm running the intro.
Oh, okay. Give me a countdown. That's not too bad. A little bit bad, but it's not too bad.
Not bad at all.
See,
We'll get through it. It goes by so fast, too, this time.
Yeah, you'll see, Shonda. It's going by really fast.
I just love the vibe already.
okay, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Charlene Singleton Show. I'm Charlene Singleton. This is my co-host, Michelle Sanchez, and we're so grateful that you have joined us today. We have an awesome, awesome program today. Absolutely amazing. Michelle and I are going to just talk for a couple of minutes. But then I have and I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be talking about mental health in the church. And we'll say a whole lot more about that in a few minutes. But grab everybody in your house, because everybody needs to hear and heal. What we're going to talk about today, I have a special guest today. Her name is Dr. Shonda Smith, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a moment. But before this...
Now, speaking of healing,
yes,
you had the conference about...
That's right.
We got to tie that in.
We
talking about healing.
That in. Yes, we had the healing power of sisterhood.
Yes, we definitely have to talk about
that. Oh, my God. That was October the 15th, and it was absolutely amazing.
I have no words. I invited people out, and I've still been getting calls. The gifts were amazing. I'm like, wow. Like, those gifts, absolutely amazing. It was a bag. I got a teacup. I can't even. It's so much stuff.
You know why? Because
my pen. I love my pen.
One of the ladies had an ink pen the next day, and I didn't have one. I said, Edna Boyd, I'm like, Edna, can I borrow your ink pen? It was so beautiful. I'm like, is this one of the pens that I ordered that you got?
Yes.
I'm like, I'm going to have to order a whole nother box of pens so I can dig through it and just get that pen. It was beautiful.
It was so, the gifts, the decoration, it was just everything. So that was just the coming into it, right?
Well, wait a minute. Let me stop and tell you about the gifts first.
Okay.
So what happened was, when I went to First Lady Laquetta's, and she gave all the speakers those amazing gifts. Right. And I was thinking, this is so awesome. But I said, but I want the ladies to come, and I want the ladies to get the gifts.
Well, you are an amazing gift giver, because I'm telling you, I loved everything. So if you didn't come, you missed out on some amazing gifts.
Okay.
So I enjoyed, so when we came in to register, because I invited a group from my church.
You won, actually.
Huh?
You won.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I invited a group. I'm thinking we're all going to sit together.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
So I'm asking the ladies, I'm like, well, where, and they're like, nope, go to this table. So I'm just like, okay. So obedience, people, obedience.
Obedience, yes.
So I sat at a table with people I did not know. And I have new sisters in the Lord from that time. So one of the ladies actually called me a few days ago.
Oh, really?
And yes. Oh. So it was just an amazing experience. I don't want to tear up, but it was spiritual. It was emotional. It was very healing. A lot of times as women, we put our guards up. No new friends. I'm not trying to deal with new people. But we shouldn't be like that in the body of Christ. And I think if that was one of the nuggets that I took away from
that was the purpose. When I was telling the ladies how that came about, I knew we needed to get started again, but I try not to move till the Lord tells me to move. Yes. And sometimes pressure will push you to do something before it's time. And I knew we needed something at the church, but I just wasn't feeling it. But when it got time, the Lord told me. And so I knew the date, but I didn't know what we were going to do.
Wow.
But I knew enough to start praying. And my friend, Margaret Ayatua, she is like a prayer warrior. So we were praying, and that's how all those things came about. Because as you know, each activity had a purpose, starting off with the dolls.
Oh my goodness. So are you the kind of person, are you the kind of friend that you're looking for?
Right.
That was, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So wait a minute, before we got to that though, remember the first thing was what
are the
kind of,
qualities?
what's
Yes.
priceless? What do you look for in a friend? So that was the first thing. And then, okay, if this is what you think is a friend is priceless, are you
Yes.
that type of friend?
Yes, that was an amazing. All the
Yeah.
exercises
Yes.
were amazing. I liked, it was different than any other conference that I've been to.
Yeah.
Because usually you have speakers that are up and then,
Yeah.
you know, it's back-to-back speakers. I shared with you afterwards, it was like we were ministering to each other.
That was the whole goal.
Yes,
That's why we
it
didn't
was
have any
awesome.
speakers. I said I would just do a little bit between activities, but no. And that's when God gave me, and I started thinking about my own life and my own time in the church. And I just happened to ask somebody, does anybody have a bulletproof vest? And so Barbara Shaw
Yeah,
said
I
she
said
had
what?
one. So I'm like, we shouldn't have to
Awesome.
come to church with a bulletproof vest on.
Absolutely.
And then we had the mask, because we all, and I said this, all of us wear masks at one particular time or another. You know, where we don't want to be judged and we don't want people to see the real you. But remember, I said, we shouldn't have to come to church with a bulletproof vest on
Yes.
and a mask, because we don't want to be judged. We just want people to see this pretty mask. And so it was totally bathed in prayer. My niece, Victoria Banks, we spent so many hours on the phone. I was on the phone with my sister Diana, and we were going through the program, just filling in the gaps, you know, and then Barbara came over. And then the bamboo plates. Okay, because we all...
Okay, now
yeah,
the food, oh my goodness. Everything.
That was Margaret, too.
Everything was
Yeah.
delicious. It was like gourmet buffet laid out. I mean, the food, the desserts, everything.
Camouflage.
Oh
the,
my goodness. Yes, every detail. It was every
Well, you know what?
detail.
That was taking us back to
Wow.
God's Women's Conference.
Wow.
Because that's what God's Women's Conference was, the minute to minute, every detail. So it was stressful and fun. See,
It
when
was.
when it's stressful and fun at the same time, it's okay. And Dr. Shonda can tell us if that's right.
And the power of God moved tremendously.
Oh, my.
Afterwards, it was a young man who brought his mother.
Right.
And he asked me to pray for him. So I was able to pray for him, and his mother asked me to pray. But
That's a blessing.
he received the prayer, and then just the encouragement that I was hearing around the room.
Well,
when
one
we were
lady's
ministering.
husband was divorcing her.
Wow.
And it was an unwanted divorce. And the lady, I didn't get a chance to meet her because there was, oh, wait a minute, I had that nightmare. You don't know.
yes.
Yeah, I'd had a nightmare that
Oh, wow.
I woke up in the middle of the night and I dreamed that only 10 people came and we had done all this work. And then we ended up with 181 people that, women that
And
actually.
we were prepared for 150, I think it was.
Well,
or
we were
200.
prepared. Well, when you're in God's Women's Conference, leading God's Women's Conference, you always have a plan B.
Okay.
Okay, so the plan A was 159. That's what we prepared for. But the night before, I said, nah, we can get the 159. We can add chairs. So it would be 159, 69, 70 something. And then we had all those walk-ins.
And I
But
think
then
every seat was filled. It
Every seat was
amazing.
filled because, like I said, I've done God's Women's Conference enough times that and other events. There's always going to be about a 10% drop off because somebody wakes up not feeling good, somebody's child doesn't feel. So, praise God, all those 181 didn't
Yes.
come. 14 people didn't come, but we had 22 walk-ins.
Wow. So it
it
balanced
worked out.
out.
It was just
And
I-
everyone was just, I mean, we cried, we laughed.
Cried, laughed.
We loved on each other.
learned
we
some new
encouraged
songs.
each other.
That
learned new
DeAndrea
songs.
song, Lord Deliver Me.
Oh, yes.
Anyhow, so
And then Sister Valerie sang.
oh my gosh, and I'm going to have her do that again because that would, anyhow. But so we didn't get a chance to do a couple of the activities.
Oh.
But God is always in control. So when we do the Healing Power of Sisterhood Part 2.
Part 2, ladies.
Part 2.
Part 2.
And so it's Ladies' Night Out.
Yes.
We're calling it Pajama Party.
Yes.
And all the ladies are wearing their onesies or their bathrobes, but it's going to be a pajama party, and it's 2 parts. It's balance. And like I said, in a moment, we're going to talk about mental health and the balance that you need.
Awesome.
But so the first part, we're going to finish off what we did for when we started.
Yes.
So we have like the first part we're going to do is there's appetizers.
Okay.
Okay, and now, you know, some ladies for the last time, they paid $7, some paid $10. They got a breakfast, they got that buffet dinner, they got all the gifts. So this time, we're gonna, let's see, we have appetizers from 5:30 to 6. And those appetizers is really like 2 dinners.
Yes.
And we're gonna do something I wanted the ladies to know, because it's getting dark already at 6. And a lot of women don't like to drive by themselves. So we're encouraging the ladies to either drive with a friend, but if your husband is driving you, we're gonna do something for the husbands upstairs. So your husband can drive you or your child, whatever, and they don't have to go home, because the men are gonna be upstairs doing their own thing upstairs. So we're just trying to make it available for everybody. But anyhow, so this is gonna be Friday, November the 11th. It's 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, but people are coming from work, so 5:30 to 6 will be the light dinner.
Okay.
And then there's gonna be another dinner. And so you see what I asked everybody to bring.
Yes.
Bring
Okay.
an empty pillowcase, because now we have these activities. Remember last time they brought the teacup?
Teacup.
No, they brought the teapot and the mask.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, and so I just got to write down one of the ideas that the ladies gave me Sunday that we're going to do. I'm going to keep this one a surprise.
Okay.
So they're going to bring an empty pillowcase, and we want everybody that can, if you can't do this, don't worry, to bring a $15 gift. And it's going to be fun. So they can register online starting on Wednesday with that same QR code that we used for the last time. They're resetting that up, and they can register starting on Wednesday. So this time, though, because it's not that we went into the hole, but after we paid almost everything, after everything is almost paid, it's still going to be like $800 on my credit card, which is fine.
Well, and you put in so much. I mean, just the time,
But the
finances,
joy.
but
Yeah.
yes.
The joy.
What you get back from it.
The
Yeah, it's
joy
priceless.
from seeing the women blessed, to seeing the new
Yes.
friendships, and that's just fun. So, and like I said, just so you know, ladies, the registration is still just $10, and you know that's you
And
pay that.
register early, because some of my guests waited until the last minute. But there are little details that you're going to miss out on. I'm just going to tell you.
Yep.
If you don't, so
Yep.
you want to make sure you register as soon as possible.
So it's $10 until October the 31st. And then November the 1st to the 11th is $15, and it's $20 at the door this time, because I can't put another $800 on my credit card that's left
I
up to
hear
me
you.
to pay. Anyhow, so we still have a couple of minutes, so that's that.
Yes, we were talking about earlier Halloween.
Halloween. You know, and I know we only have a couple of minutes, but this is my thing with Halloween, because Halloween's coming up on Monday.
Now, did your children dress up, or do your grandchildren dress up for
Oh,
Halloween?
my daughter-in-law, Tanaya, the whole family, they were Pirates of the Caribbean one year.
Okay.
Everybody, the little ones, Tanaya, Pastor Corey, every year she has a theme for the family.
Okay, that's cute.
Yeah. But my concern is I go to something called Bible Study Fellowship. And when I would go to the church, the house next door, wasn't a person, it's a house, the whole roof was filled with black widow spiders. Big black widow spiders on the whole roof, and it scared the kids so much. It's like that commercial. Did you see what those nursery workers did?
No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh. They had that mask.
Like a preschool nursery?
A preschool nursery.
Oh, no.
They had one of those masks with the long black, it was a white mask with the long black mouth. Anyhow, it was scary to me. And they come, and all these people got fired, and actually they're getting charged.
Oh, wow.
They're actually getting charged, criminally charged. They were coming in and they were scaring these are preschoolers, and I wonder what that's going to do to their minds. And I'm going to ask Pastor Shonda about that in a minute. And so, but my concern is Christians that have their kids dressing up like vampires and like
I told you someone did a
witches.
Jeffrey Dahmer
It was on TV,
with a bucket
Michelle.
with limbs in it. I'm just like, oh
Why
my
would
goodness.
somebody want to dress up like Jeffrey Dahmer with a basket of limbs? So now, if they're of the world, I understand that.
Yes,
But Christians? Christians?
absolutely.
Evil? Why would you want to portray evil for
Or
Halloween?
like, yeah, the murderers and all of this
The
stuff.
murderers, the Freddy Kruegers,
yeah, all
the
that.
Chucky doll.
Yes.
Anyhow, so I just really question, sometimes people, I want them to think about what they are doing. You know, so with my kids, my kids, I dressed them up, but they were never anything like that.
And so
yeah.
what we did with the kids at the church this past Sunday, I usually speak for our youth and young adults services. So we had it this past Sunday. So I had the kids dress up as Bible characters. And I was telling you how they have, you know, YouTube and all these the influencers, right? You have all these influencers. And I asked the young people, name me some influencers. And they can name them off the top of their head. I don't even know these people. But I said, but what about the Bible influencers?
Bible
Who is
influencers, yeah.
influencing you from the Bible?
Right.
Because why do we dress up as these people? Because they influence us, right?
Right.
You're dressing up as a singer or a dancer or an actor or a scary person. So how are the people in the Bible influencing you? So it was so cute. One of my favorite ones, they were all my favorite, but I had a little Lydia. And she had on all purple, and that's one of my favorite characters in the Bible.
Businesswoman.
Because she's a businesswoman. She was about making money. She opened her home up to the people of God.
Yes.
Hostess, like to entertain. I said, oh, she influenced me a whole lot. So
You know what, Michelle?
I love that.
I love that idea. And I know it's too late to do that for this year for our church, but next year. And I know Karen Moore works with the children, and Karen Joy is our children's pastor now. And so,
Awesome.
Karen, I know you're upstairs. We should do that next
And
year.
they did, the costumes were so cute. We had Joseph, we had Joshua, we had King David.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was able to give this a brief little description on who they are, what they did. And I tied it all into, at the end of the day, they were obedient to God. So and just encouraging the children to be influenced by that. So I feel like even as parents, and I held some of the parents accountable as well, because we allow them to do all these things in the world, but
Right.
let's be influenced by the scripture.
And you know
Yeah.
what? That's amazing, because I'm putting together a message. I just started it this morning, and it's about Bible influencers, but on both sides, because I'm studying the Old Testament right now, the book of the Kings, and the kings of Judah and the kings of Israel, and how the kings of Israel were so influenced even by Jeroboam for centuries. But the kings of Judah, that's Israel, the northern kingdom, but the kings of the southern kingdom of Judah were influenced by King David. And so we were in Bible study this morning, and I'm like, oh, this would be a great message. So I just started outlining
Awesome.
it. So influencers,
Yes.
that needs to be maybe the theme for 2023. Let's do something
Absolutely.
with that
Like,
in
who's
January.
influencing you?
Oh,
We
we're
can
gonna
come
have some
dressed up.
fun.
I'm gonna be Lydia.
We're gonna do
come dressed up.
influencers to start off the new year.
Yes.
Okay, we gotta start.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
and
will
we-
be monitoring the questions on the Facebook page, People of God. So if you have any questions, I will be monitoring any questions that you may have. Those that are watching live, I'm paying attention on my
Okay,
screen.
good. So,
Okay.
so they know that we're about to have our special guest come on, Dr. Shonda Smith. So she's about to come on, and as Michelle said, she's monitoring the questions. So we are going to be right back. Don't go away. Call all your friends. You listen, and let's just get educated.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Sunday, October 30th is Sunday Fun Day Harvest Festival for our kids. We're going to have games, sports, music, food, and lots of candy for the children. Invite your kids, your grandkids, all the kids in your neighborhood, and every child you know. It's absolutely free. Join us on Sunday, October 30th for Sunday Fun Day Harvest for the kids. We're collecting candy donations to hand out on October 31st and looking for volunteers to help us out. If you're interested, call the church office at 909-356-5683. Sunday, October 30th is Sunday Fun Day Harvest Festival for our kids. We're going to have games, sports, music, food, and lots of candy for the children. Invite your kids, your grandkids, all the kids in your neighborhood, and every child you know. It's absolutely free. Join us on Sunday, October 30th for Sunday Fun Day Harvest for the kids. We're collecting candy donations to hand out on October 31st and looking for volunteers to help us out. If you're interested, call the church office at 909-356-5683.
I hope you called all your friends, and because you're about to get blessed. I'm about to get blessed too. I actually have my ink pen and a piece of paper, and this is why.
Yeah.
I've said this so many times on this show. My co-host and I have talked about this. So many times in life, we are three-part beings. We are body, we're our physical being, our soul, and our spirit.
Right.
We go to the doctors not just when we get sick, but many of us practice preventive medicine.
Yep.
My sister Diana worked at Kaiser in the preventive medicine wing for many, many years.
Yep.
And so that's what we do for our bodies. For our spirit, we go to church.
Right.
And even if you're not physically coming to church, you're at least watching church on TV. But too many times we neglect our soul.
Yeah.
And seriously, the soul is right in the middle. And there is a battle for your soul, a battle for the mind that goes on. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're actually calling this, what do we call it?
We're calling it mental health in the church is what we're calling it.
Mental health in the church. I'm going to
Yeah.
introduce my guest. We're calling this mental health in the church. So my guest that I've been wanting to get on this show for months. I mean, seriously, for about 6 months.
Yeah.
But she is Dr. Shonda Smith. And the first thing I'm going to say is she is a born-again believer.
Come
She
on.
goes to Loveland Church.
Woo!
She actually dances every week with the flags at our church, which is balance.
Yes.
Because during the week, she
Yeah.
is Dr. Shonda Smith, a licensed marriage and family therapy. She specializes in working with women's with identity, with self-esteem, value, and worth.
Yeah.
She is a PhD. I have some stuff that I want to turn over.
Yeah.
She has a PhD at Liberty University in counseling, education, and family studies. And I wrote down just a couple of other things about her. Okay, so once again, she worked on her master's in clinical psychology.
Yeah.
And then she spent 5 more years getting her PhD. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Yeah.
And finally, she is the daughter of my friend, Pastor Barbara Fombie. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So I'm gonna remember for this
Yeah.
show, I'm gonna call you
Yeah.
Doctor.
Okay.
I know I'm so used to calling you Shonda, but I know, and that's how
Some
we should-
days I'm doctor, and some days I just want to be Shonda.
And
Okay.
you know, that's I know exactly
You know?
how you
So it's-
feel. Yeah. Some people came to our Pastor Chuck and I went someplace recently. I can't remember where, and they asked everybody to introduce themselves.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm Charlene Singleton. He said he's Chuck Singleton. Neither one of us
Said
really,
pastor, right?
Yeah, neither one of us
Right.
did that. Okay, so Doctor, you know, I just started talking about this.
Yeah.
And,
Mental health in the church.
And let me say, have you seen that commercial on TV where the guy is in the gym?
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
laying like this,
Yeah.
and the barbell is on his chest, and the guy comes up and he says, "I can help you. I can help you." And he says,
Yep.
"No, you don't know
My family. Right.
That's what you're talking about.
Right.
So touch us.
You know, it's a real thing, you know. And first of all, let me just say thank you for hosting this conversation. And I hope that after it's all said and done, that people will begin to sort of cultivate an atmosphere for conversations regarding mental health.
Yes.
So that we can begin to normalize it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It should be like this spooky thing or this like enigma, this mysterious thing, like, oh my gosh, mental health, is she like crazy? You know? No, it's like you said, we're spirit, soul, and body. You know what I mean? So the soul part, right, needs some attending to. It needs some nurturing too.
I love that.
Right?
I love that.
So
Mental hygiene.
mental hygiene.
Yes. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so part of why I'm here today is to sort of dispel the myth,
Okay.
the stigma
Right.
associated with when we talk about mental health and mental illness, because you know the two are
The
different.
two are different. And you know what, Dr. Shonda? That stigma is
That gets most people.
And so many times it is in the church. And
Yes.
I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But it's not just in the church, it's in our community.
Yes.
I often tease when I'm watching TV and you'll have a therapist and they're dealing with their patient.
Yeah.
And then they're looking at their clock because they have to go see their
Right,
therapist.
right.
And it's no big deal. The therapist has a therapist.
It absolutely, it's not a big deal. I mean, I've done my therapy. And the program you mentioned, I got a master's in clinical psychology at Azusa Pacific University. And let me tell you, Azusa does not play.
I got my master's from Azusa. My bachelor's from Azusa. I got my master's from down there.
In order for us to graduate, they required us, it wasn't an option, they required us to go through our own individual therapy. We had to do a year, 40 sessions of individual therapy. And then, not just that, we had to do group therapy.
Wait a minute, how do you do individual therapy?
One-on-one with a therapist, myself
Oh,
and my therapist.
wow.
Yes.
That
and then
is amazing.
And then we had to get in a group of people.
You just gave me an
You got
idea.
an idea?
I'm serious, you just gave me an idea. I've been saying that one of the things I was going to suggest to Pastor Chuck
Yeah.
was, you know, we have a big staff here at Loveland.
Okay.
And I was going to suggest to him that we do a couple of things for our staff. But
That's a good
something
idea.
that we should do for our,
Yeah.
we should all be required to go to therapy. And Pastor Chuck and I, we went to therapy a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And when I, you know what I came out saying?
What?
Everybody in the world needs to go to a therapist.
Absolutely.
It's life. It's life. It lightens. I can't even put it into
Well,
words.
because we all have blind spots. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And when you think and sometimes what we go through, it's like layers. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you can think you can have one particular area of your life together, and you feel like, okay, I'm healed enough, or I feel like I'm good. But when you go to therapy or coaching or whatever it looks like for you, you just learn so much more about yourself because
Right.
healing is layered. It's a layered
I
process.
love that. Okay, but tell us
and
the difference too between mental illness and mental health.
So mental
Yes.
health is exactly what it says. Is that you are balanced, right? When we talk about the soul part, we're talking about your emotional health. We're talking about your mental health. When I say mental health, I'm talking about your thought life, right? There's a balance there. Not to say that, you don't have your moments from time to time. I mean, we all do, right?
Right, we all
but it's
do.
how we manage that, right? And
Okay.
as long as it's not causing you to be debilitated or paralyzing, but you're able to sort of bounce back or spring back from that, right? So that's mental health. But, sometimes when whatever those issues of life, as the Bible calls it, right, when they come in, if we don't attend to it, as I said earlier, the soul part of us needs attending. If we don't attend to it, then it becomes to where it moves from the middle to the far left or to the far right, and then it becomes more of like a mental illness, where now you're sort of paralyzed in it, you're sort of debilitated in it, you necessarily can't function, you necessarily can't function in relationships, go to work, things of that nature. And so that's when it becomes a little bit, off balance, and
Okay.
you need, to seek professional help with that. So, but mental health is just, like I said, it's just what the name suggests, is that you're living a balanced life and you have things, in place to help you maintain that balance emotionally and mentally. But when we don't do anything, when we don't attend to that, that's when we become imbalanced. And then we run the risk of having a mental illness. And let me tell you, some things that we go through, sometimes the things that people go through, it doesn't have to be a mental illness if people just attend to it.
Exactly. Just like you have
take care of it.
preventative medicine, you don't have to get sick
Exactly.
to,
You don't have to have a mental illness.
Right.
But then we talk about stigma, right?
Right.
And I know you said it's like predominantly in our culture, right? People of color, right?
Yes.
But I want to say it's mass media, right? What we see on TV, how mental health is portrayed on television, how
Because,
it's portrayed in magazines or wherever, social media, right? Straight jacket, right?
And nobody wants to be labeled like
No
that.
one wants to
because
be
they'll
labeled.
ostracized.
Exactly.
And I think this is so much of what takes place even with the peer pressure in school with our children.
Right.
I was listening to somebody and she was talking about how so many times young people in high school or school, they need to go talk to a counselor.
Yeah.
But they don't want to go talk to them.
Right.
Because there'll be a stigma.
Because people know that you're going to talk to the therapist
and so
on campus.
the lady suggested that they get two good friends, so all three of them
Right.
go to the counselor.
Right.
And
Right.
then nobody would know
Right.
which one of them really.
Right.
Except for kids, one of them's going to tell.
Right, but in this day and time, I know when I was coming through high school, I mean, it's just a different era, but just what the teenagers have to deal with in this day and time, it's pretty intense things that they have to deal with,
So you're saying that somebody can move from mental
Health.
and if their mental health is not taken care of, that can go into a mental
To illness.
So what, like
So, and
divorce, death, what?
So like a mood disorder, right? So
Okay.
just because someone is sad, it doesn't
Okay.
necessarily mean that they have a clinical depression
Okay.
disorder where you need to be on medication, right?
Okay.
I mean, sadness is a natural emotion.
Yes.
What happens is that if life is about living in the middle, right? But what happens is if it's prolonged or persistent sadness, it can become a type of mood disorder like clinical depression,
Okay.
So, and sometimes it depends on the trigger. It depends on the catalyst. It could be grief that initiated that, and so there's normal bereavement, there's normal grief, but sometimes there's a point of where, okay, it's been 5 years, and that individual still grieving as if it just happened.
right,
Like it's still
as-
raw, but it's
okay.
5 years later, right?
5
Now we're
years.
dealing with something else.
Now you're dealing with Monk on TV. Have you ever seen
I
Monk?
haven't seen, I've heard of Monk, but I haven't seen it.
You should watch
yet.
Monk.
Okay.
Because he has a mental disorder. That's
Oh.
what the whole story, the whole show is based
Okay.
upon. And he can't get past his wife. He's still wearing a wedding
Right.
ring. And in one of the sessions, he's telling the lady, well, you know, I'll be cheating on my wife. And then she finds out that his wife has been dead for
right,
5 years.
Right, exactly.
And that's in
That's
this whole
exactly
show.
the point.
Seriously, that would be a good show for you to watch.
So
It'd
I'm
be
gonna put that on my
good
list
research.
to watch. Yeah.
And I love Monk.
And same thing with like anxiety too. You know, I mean, we were talking just before the show how anxiety stressors is just increasing. You know, in this
Yes.
the day and time that we're in, people are so stressed out.
You know, Shonda, I had, and I can tell already, we're going to have you back and get a little bit deeper into
Yeah.
this too. And we'll have a live audience when we do that. But I asked a group of girls to come over to the house, the Girls to Pearls, LaShawn's group, a number of years ago. And so these girls were all in like 10th, 11th,
High
10th,
schoolers.
11th, a couple of them in seniors.
Yeah.
And they came over and I cooked lunch for them. And no, I had them come over and I taught them. I was teaching them how to cook. And then I was teaching them about setting the table
Yeah.
and we went in
The
my
etiquette,
dining
all
room.
that, yeah.
We did the whole thing. But then we had the discussion.
Yeah.
Those girls were stressed out, just
Trying to
going through
tell you.
anxiety. And the
Yeah.
more I talked, you know why? These girls, like I said, there was only a couple of them as seniors. Most of these girls were 10th and 11th grade. They were truly stressed out over what they were going to do in life.
Right.
And I was telling them, I'm like, you guys, you're 15 years
Right,
old.
the
you're
best time of your
16.
life, right? You should have no worries, be carefree, right?
Right. But it's so much of society, as
Yeah.
you said.
Expectations, the
Okay.
pressures that come with that. You know, we live life in a box, right? It's supposed to look like this. And so what if you're a circle, what I say to my clients sometimes, if you're a circle, but you're trying to achieve this square dream, right? You're trying to fit within this square, right? Because the powers that be, the voices of influence are saying it's supposed to look like this. So first you do this, and then second step you do this, right? And so people are trying to fit their lives into this template. And it doesn't exist because you're not being true to who God made you to be. You're not being authentic.
So it doesn't exist.
It
You just
doesn't
said
exist, but we're
that
forcing
might be
it.
for somebody else. That box
Exactly.
might fit for somebody
Exactly.
else, but not you. And that can really throw you into total imbalance, I think you're saying.
The depression, the anxiety, that doesn't even need to be, right?
Right. Okay.
Right?
Right.
That doesn't even need to be, right? Because we're trying to go after and achieve something that doesn't.
And expectations.
Expectation.
I
yeah.
mean, so much is expectations,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody wants to meet their parents, their friends,
Yeah.
their society's expectations of
Right.
them, and once again, but they're not their authentic self.
I don't think anyone can ever be happy when you're trying to achieve someone else's expectation of themselves, right? Just as God made us all unique down to our thumbprint. There's not one exact thumbprint. So one of the things I work with my women is like, okay, we can't do this. You cannot live for other people. You have to live for yourself. There's so many voices that we need to unpack and declutter inside your head. You can't even begin to see your own value and your worth, your identity, who you are as a woman, first of all, and who you are in Christ, because there's other voices back in your head that you're competing with, or that you're comparing yourself to, or that you, like you were saying, the pressure of the expectation to live up to. And so it's just, there's these stressors and anxiety disorders and depressive disorders that ought not to be if we could just be who we're really originally, authentically created to be, you know? So some mental illness can be prevented.
And that's
Right?
so there's two parts of this, actually probably more.
Yeah.
But you have probably at least three.
Yeah.
But you have to prevent it, and I think some of this would have to start taking place in childhood, where parents are seeing things and not ignoring them.
100%.
Yeah. Talk to me about talk to us about that.
100%. And so unfortunately, by the time we see them, they're adults, right?
Right.
And so on the outside, they look like they have it together, right? But to get up front, close and personal, there's these patterns, cycles of patterns and pathologies, right? And you don't see it until maybe you're in relationships. And when I say relationships, I'm not necessarily talking about dating. I'm just saying maybe family relationships, maybe friendship
Friends,
relationships,
okay.
right? And it's like, why do I say the things that I say? Why do I, like I tell my clients, all behavior is motivated, whether it's negative or positive. There's something underneath that's driving, that's motivating that behavior. Do you know what that is, right? And so I teach them a lot about self-awareness, knowing what makes you tick. Why do you say the things that you say? Do you understand why you said what you said? Do you understand why you made that choice, right? And so by the time we get them, they're adults, like I said, on the outside, they look like they have it together, but sometimes we have to go back to childhood because it didn't get fixed. And sometimes this is not to blame parents. This is what I say to my clients. This is not about blaming. It's not about staying in a victim role, right? Because some things you can't control as a child, right? It is the adult's job to protect, to teach, and all of it. But sometimes, individuals don't get that. And so as an adult, they have to go back enough to fix what they need to fix, meaning have some understanding about what happened, right? And then sort of reconcile what happened so that they can move forward, in their present.
I was listening to a tape on this, and if I can remember, she was talking about with children, when they are so sensitive, they cannot take any type of criticism at all.
Yeah.
And how parents need to teach their children, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay but when it doesn't,
It just sort of, it feeds this idea of just being perfect, perfectionism, right?
Yes.
So if you don't catch that, it's in seed form as a child, right? If a parent
Love
doesn't
that.
catch that, then okay, which is something that's normal. Okay, let's talk about it, and maybe if that child needs to go to therapy or coach or whatever that looks like, if that doesn't get corrected, now it becomes this issue of like perfectionism,
Right.
right?
So
Unless,
what you just said. Last night, I was watching TV, Doctor, and Matthew Perry was on.
Matthew Perry.
Matthew
yeah.
Perry from Friends.
Oh, yeah.
And he just wrote a book. And in his book, he's talking about how he and Julia Roberts dated for a couple of months.
Really?
And then he broke up with
Yeah.
her. And he was saying that in his mind, he broke up with her because he didn't feel like he was anything. And
Yeah.
he said, I know she's going to eventually break
Yeah.
up with me,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to do it myself.
Self-sabotaging is what we call it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's sort of like these internal dynamics. This is why I tell my clients, get to a place where you're so aware of what your internal dynamics are, because those are the things that play out, in your decision-making, your relationships, right?
What did you call that again?
Self-sabotaging.
And then you said something
Internal
about
dynamics.
Internal dynamics.
And what I mean
I'm
by
taking notes.
yeah, internal dynamics. It's like sort of like the live wire, right? It's buried underneath the dirt. It's the wire's not dead. It's just it's alive underneath the dirt, right?
Oh my God!
right. But it's still showing up in your life. The individual's just not aware of it, right? They're making decisions because
Right.
there's a live wire underneath there, that internal dynamic that I'm talking about. It could be people pleasing, it could be perfectionism, it could be self-sabotaging, whatever it's called, it's there underneath. Are you in tune to that? Are you aware of that? Because if you're not, that is what's playing out, right? And so what I encourage people to do is get aware of what makes you tick, right?
Right,
Especially if
right.
you've been through trauma, especially if you've been through some adverse childhood experiences.
Especially childhood abuse.
Neglect, abuse. You cannot tell me that to go through those types of things and not go through any type of therapy, that you're okay. You may look okay on the outside, but like I said earlier, to get up front and close, those things start to show up when you get in relationships.
You know what, Doctor?
And triggers,
Yes.
right? Why am I triggered when,
Yes.
oh, okay, it's because what happened to me, whatever, when I was 6 or whatever that, critical
And that's
period
what comes
was.
out when you go to that therapist, because they go back into your childhood.
And we don't stay there, but long enough to access the information we need to access so that you can understand why you function in your present day, in your adult body,
Right.
why you function the way that you function.
And then there'll be certain things that you do learn to avoid those triggers. You know, I remember when Chuck Jr., he was probably about, maybe about 4 years old.
Yeah.
And no, he had to be 3 because Chris wasn't here yet. Anyhow, we used to have the home Bible studies. Remember, that's how Loveland just got
Yeah,
so big with
yeah.
the home Bible studies. And we had one at our house every week. Well, Pastor Chuck was was traveling that week. And so we had this big group of people, and now they have to go home. And I don't want them to go home because I don't know where this came from, but I've just always been just really afraid to be in not the house I'm in right now, but
Right.
anybody else's house alone at night.
Right.
To the point where my mom and dad went on vacation one year, and they left my sister Gloria and I. Diane was too little, so they took her, and Eugene went someplace. Gloria promised me, and I'm good someplace with this.
Yeah.
Gloria promised me that she would be home by a certain time. Now it's late. She's out with her friends. I'm in this house by myself. I'm scared. So you know what I did?
What?
I went out and sat on the front porch
Yeah.
where anybody could get me.
Right.
Because I was so scared. So now this is years later. Pastor Chuck is gone. He's traveling. And I don't want them to go home. So one of the pastors says, Sister Singleton, if you're that scared, why don't you get a gun? And I thought about it for a second. He said, because then you'll feel secure. And I thought about it for a second, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
because I know what's inside of me.
Right.
I know how I grew up. I grew
Right.
up with a
Right.
family, especially on my dad's side,
Yeah.
that were given to temper.
Right.
Given to temper, just like when you light a flame.
Right.
And I'm like, nah, because I'm gonna get mad at my husband
Not a
one
good
day, and I'm gonna shoot
combination.
him.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Not a
serious.
good
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot him, and then
Yeah.
I'll be in jail, and my child won't have it.
His mom.
But I do agree with this times that people do have to know what's inside of them, accept what's inside of them. And I want to
Yeah.
go back to those children.
Yeah.
That repeated, if that child just cannot take criticism to the place where they shut down.
Yeah.
And it's repeated, and now they're teenagers.
And that's where you get into not just perfectionism, but low self-esteem.
Thank you.
Lack
That's
of
where I went.
confidence.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? And so it's sort of, you become sort of preoccupied with what other people think about you. And this is how the enemy gets in, right? Because now you're dealing with these spirits of rejection, right? So then now you're vulnerable now because, okay, so a person will probably do anything, right? Lower their
Yes.
standards, compromise, settle, just to be accepted,
wow.
right? Because of the low self-esteem, the lack of confidence, the inferiority complex, you know,
Right.
it's a host of things, you
So,
know?
okay,
So it's just
so-
sort of, it builds from maybe that incident, that child experienced, being
Right.
sensitive.
Right.
It's okay, it's just being sensitive, right? But now since it's no longer sensitivity, it's something else, right?
So tell me then, so we talked about that, but what are some things that people can do? And I know you work a lot with women. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I've talked to Michelle about this. I know a lot of divorced women.
Yeah.
And I honestly would say that 90% of my friends that are divorced are still, I mean, it could be years ago, still not healed from that.
Yeah.
So whether it's divorce or
Single.
death, expectations.
Yeah.
Being single for so many years, and anyhow, what are some of the mental hygiene practices that somebody can do to just help them in preventative? Now, I'm not talking about mental illness because I know
Right.
that's
Every
a whole
day,
deeper subject.
right. Mental health, maintaining your mental health,
mental health and
preventative.
maintenance, yeah.
I mean, self-care, honestly. Like you
Okay.
said earlier, just checking in. Even if it's just what we're doing right now, having conversations, with the people that you trust, that are safe, right? And then maybe having some weekly check-in and asking, so how was your week? Maybe not necessarily those questions, but maybe asking some questions of accountability because you know that person, so you know what they're struggling with or what they're dealing with. So you're going to ask pointed questions so that hopefully that, that person is able to, to engage and open up and share what's going on. So I would
Right.
probably say just starting with, just getting together with your circle, with your tribe, and having conversations and checking in about your emotional health or your mental health. But again, this is in a circle of people that is safe, because not everybody should have access to that.
I love that. Oh, everybody should not have all access.
Everyone hasn't paid due the rights to have access to that, and
I
that
love
should
that.
be someone that has sort of been vetted over a period of time, that's been proven trustworthy, and they can hold that space for you and not share it with anyone else, right? So what am I saying? I'm saying let's start talking, right? It's just
have-
something as simple as just talking.
I love that. We have a thing that we do. My little 5-year-old granddaughter is 10, anyhow. But we have a thing we do with my grandchildren. Corey and Tanai, they do it. At the end of the day, we ask each other, "How was your day?" I remember the first time my granddaughter, Ayana, asked me that. She's like, "Gigi, how was your day today?"
Yeah.
So every day they ask, and if they're around me, we're talking. What was our day?
Yeah.
And so, for me, and you can
Yeah.
tell me if this is right. I think sometimes you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Check in with yourself. Okay, because I do try to do this. Check in with me to see what's going on with
Right.
me with that day. And I had to do this today, actually. I was telling Pastor, how was my day going? Well, I told Pastor, I got him on the phone. I'm like, the only reason I'm not utterly stressed out is because I keep talking to the Lord. And I'm like, God, I need you to do this. There are some decisions I need to make. And I have pressure that I have to make these decisions right now.
Right, yeah.
I got like one more day.
So pressure, right?
So that pressure. And I told Pastor, and so I've been running to Santa Ana. I've been just running to try to get this stuff done. And then I was just telling myself today, I'm like, you know what? You need to, and now I'm on the freeway.
Yeah.
And I'm fighting Orange County
Right,
traffic.
yeah. Which
Okay.
I've driven out of it
I was
to
just
come
gonna
to
say,
here.
you live down that way.
Uh-huh.
And Orange County traffic, I don't know why, but it's like they need to do something with
A
them.
different freeway or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my
Overpass,
gosh.
something.
So I'm fighting this traffic. I have this pressure on me. Nothing is going right. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I just told Pastor, I'm like, the only reason that I'm not stressed out is because I refuse to be stressed out. I'm talking to the Lord. I'm telling God, and I'm just talking to Him. So I do know that, but I would admit it.
So being transparent and honest with yourself.
Right.
Is what I'm hearing.
Right. I was honest with myself.
Yeah.
Because if I wasn't, I would have been stressed out.
Right.
But I just said, no, I cannot go. If you do, and now I know when you're dealing with mental illness, it's different
Yeah.
from dealing with, what was the other term?
Mental health.
Mental health. So it's like, it's our choice whether we want to eat a hamburger and French fries and
Or whatever.
or whatever,
a salad
as
or whatever.
opposed to a salad. So we have some choices we have to make. And so for me, because I'm pretty balanced, I was able to. I just refuse to go there. I know that's not what the Lord. And so I'm saying these verses.
Yeah.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and leaning not into your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge God,
Him,
and He'll do it.
yeah.
And I'm even telling this to the lady at the store.
Right.
I'm like, well, God told me this. So all that to say, yeah.
And maybe also too, that's an indicator for you. I would
What?
say when we feel pressure, we feel overwhelmed, that's an indicator that something's askew, that something needs to change externally in our environment, right? And so that's when we get into talking about boundaries, right?
Well, that's when I need to slow down.
Exactly.
Yeah, for me, it's just,
Sometimes it's,
Yeah.
we say we set boundaries against other people's toxic or unhealthy behavior, but sometimes we have what I call internal boundaries.
Okay.
We have to tell our own self, like, you know what, this is where I draw the line, because the last time I did this and I committed to this,
Right.
I just, you know how you feel.
Right. No, I like that.
Overwhelmed,
Yeah.
the pressure is here. I don't know,
Right.
wherever you feel, where
Well, and just so you know, so our people, so for me, I've not had a kitchen for like 3 years. I've been washing dishes. My laundry room is my sink.
Yeah,
I have no
everything,
sink in
right?
my kitchen.
Yeah.
I have no stoves in my for
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
So we've been living on pioneer days.
Yeah.
Cooking outside. And that's fine. I
Yeah.
mean, because I've learned to bloom where you're planted.
Right, right.
So if you walked in my house, you would not even know I don't have.
Have a
they've torn it
kitchen,
all
right,
out.
yeah.
Because I just put.
Yeah.
I got some tables and put them in and decorated.
Yeah.
But all that to say, so they finally started working on the house, and then they get there, and instead of telling me months ago that I need to have certain things done, they're like, okay, well, and they tore it down to the studs. Okay, we need cabinets next week. We need cabinets on. They started Monday. By Wednesday, you need
Yeah.
to pick your cabinets.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, so I'm running around picking cabinets. I'm like, wait a minute, you can't do that like that.
Right.
You got to pick a counter first.
Right.
Okay, and then from the counter, you pick the cabinets.
So
except there's
a bit-
layers.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now I can't find cabinets
Right.
that I like.
Right.
I gotta live with this this is my forever home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I get a piece of quartz that I really like, only to find out I can't get that. And
Yeah.
I've done the whole kitchen around this piece of quartz.
Right.
So now I'm gonna stop, and so that's
Right.
why I'm running to all these different stores. And then I just told myself, I said, you know what? Seriously, I wanted the kitchen by Christmas, and I still do, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I haven't had a kitchen in 3 years.
Right.
So if I don't get a kitchen until January,
So
February,
what's a couple of more
it was
months?
a couple more months after
yeah.
3 years. It's
And
3
the-
years this
right,
week,
right,
actually.
right.
So there's some of the things, because I thrive on pressure.
So you-
GWC would not have been what it is without
Right,
pressure. But
right,
this pressure was
right.
like
Yeah.
somebody else is putting this pressure on me. So in my therapy session with you.
I think kind of what I'm hearing is that you're sort of just releasing yourself from the expectation that you want a kitchen by Christmas, right? And maybe the reality that it's not going to happen.
Maybe it
So
won't
if you
happen.
get to the reality up here, right?
Right.
That it's not going to happen.
Okay.
The pressure goes.
The pressure goes. If it happens,
Let it go.
happens.
If it
and
happens, it happens. It doesn't, it doesn't, right? In the big scheme of things, right?
Right,
So
right.
it's just like eventually you will have your kitchen.
Right.
Maybe not this Christmas, but maybe next Christmas, right? So just like we talked about earlier, just the pressures that we put on ourselves, other people put on us, the
Right.
pressure we put on ourselves. And honestly, we don't need to
Right.
if
right.
we, like you check within yourself
Okay.
and just sort of like, okay, be honest with yourself, right? Be realistic with yourself, right? And
Right.
some things just we
well,
need to let
I
go.
realized that, okay, so whether I call it stress or discomfort, then I'm
It's an indicator that something needs to change.
Exactly. I was
Yeah.
talking to myself. Okay, where is
Yeah.
this coming from?
Right.
The pressure
Right.
from the people.
Right.
Okay, well, what
Right.
happens if it doesn't happen?
And some things are beyond your control, right?
And that's that.
You
well,
can't
then
control
God
it.
bless me. After I ran to all those stores,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm praying the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
I ran to all those stores, and then the very first piece that I had done everything around that had fallen through.
Yeah.
Then I found out like an hour before I got on the road today.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
they can get that. You
Right.
don't. And I did all that for well, not
Right.
for nothing because
Right,
I
right,
did
right.
find out.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
things work together for
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
And so, this is really interesting. What did you find out about yourself when you went through therapy for that year and so many months?
I still touch base with therapy here and
I
there.
think that's awesome. I need to go. I need to get a session with you.
Look, I still touch base with therapy here and there. My colleagues, clinical therapists, friends, colleagues, you know,
I'm having my session with you. I'm laying on the couch.
Okay, here we go.
I'm laying on the couch. This is my
Here we
session.
Here we go. Here we go.
Do people really lay on the couch when they go to therapy?
Not sometimes. Well, yeah. You know, I know sometimes they're like, if you feel like that's what makes you comfortable, do that.
You know why I'm not going to
Close
keep laying
your
on this couch?
eyes,
Because I will fall asleep.
fall
Because that's
asleep,
how tired I am.
right? You know, one of the things I learned about myself in therapy was just how broken I was. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And really being able to understand that, and then making the connection to how that brokenness was showing up. You know,
Why were you broken, though? Because there's somebody out
life
there the
happens
same
to
way.
all of us, right?
Yeah.
People have done some things, you know. There's some things that happened to me in my childhood that I couldn't control it. The adults in my life were supposed to be there to protect me, and for whatever reason they didn't, you know. And this is not to blame anyone
Right.
or to fault anyone. I'm certainly nobody's victim, okay, because God has done an amazing work
Isn't that
in my life.
is that a step in mental health that you realize that you're not a victim and
I don't
that
even like
things
saying
just
that
happen?
word, yeah.
Okay.
Because life happens to all of us, right?
Okay.
And you're not no one's victim unless you allow yourself or you see yourself that way. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's so
You know, so I had to get to a place where I had to feel the feelings of what happened.
Wow.
And that's why most people don't go to therapy, because they don't want to feel.
Because when you get too close to that hot wire. Yeah.
Painful to go back to those memories, right? But unfortunately, we go through the valley, right? That's the only way we get out on the other side. And what I say to my clients is, if you can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, trust God with the process, I promise you, you can come through the valley on the other side, and you'll recognize a person you won't even know who that person is. I don't even when I look back over my life in different seasons of my life, I don't recognize. It's like, who was that person, right? But that's what brokenness do to a person. That's what brokenness does to you.
Okay.
You know, you're not really who God made you to be. It's just this fragmented parts of yourself, you know? So I learned in therapy that it was okay for me to be at the place that I was in, but then also to reconcile that and not blame myself, not blame anyone, and then somehow just reconcile that and have peace about that and forgive myself or forgive whoever, right? And then just build and allow God to build on that healing. Because healing is a process. We love it when God just does it like that, when he just like instantaneously
Yeah, but most of the time, even God doesn't do that most of the time.
Jesus, when he healed, sometimes he healed people on the spot, right? But then sometimes it's as they went, right?
They went.
It's something about the process that is God's favorite, because it's in the process he shows you things about yourself, right?
Yes.
So when it comes to feeling the feelings, we can't just feel it, you know, deal with it like instantaneously, but it's a process. And so it may be uncomfortable to feel it, but there's something about the process that that individual needs to go through that, to come out on the other side. So I recommend therapy.
I highly recommend it.
Some people don't need it. It could be a coach. It could be, like I said, a trusted best friend. It could be talking to a pastor. I mean, it looks different from person to person, but whatever what it looks like is depending on the issue. We need to have conversations with each other and check in, because there are people, when we talk about mental health in church, there are people that are no longer here that should be here because families are not talking about it. You talked about the Black culture, African-American culture, and there's also Hispanic cultures, Asian cultures. I have clinicians that are of other ethnicity, and they say they struggle with the same thing too.
Okay.
Right? So it's just simply, let's check in with each other. We're so busy, right? And let's have conversations, right?
We recently, so going from the mental health to the mental illness, we recently had one of our young girls in the church that committed suicide. And she had been actually dealing with depression for
a while,
since she was in like 10th grade.
Yeah.
She was like 23, so like the last 5 years. But you know, I got a whole education at her homegoing service, because the way they were talking about this is that just like you can really be in pain physically, I mean intense pain.
Yeah.
Her mom, her sisters, one of her nurse, one of her best friends, they're talking about the immense mental pain that was just comparable to physical pain that she was in.
Psychosomatic is what we call it.
Psychosomatic. Okay.
So even though it has a mental health component to it, it shows up like physically in the body. And so when people go to doctors where they think something's wrong, there's nothing wrong physically. There's this psychosomatic component to it, right?
Okay.
The emotional component is what I'm saying. The mood component, right?
Right.
And so we talked about like the mind-body connection, right? You can't separate one or the other.
That's
the
what
body
the
is
Bible
connected
says.
to
Yeah.
not just our emotions, our thought, but also the brain,
Right.
which is we do a lot of things automatically without even thinking about it. But
Right.
at first,
Subconscious
the
things,
neurons up here
Right.
fires with the other neurons, and so we eat, right? Or so we feel, or we remember. It starts up here. It's all connected, right? And so sometimes it shows up when I say psychosomatic, that whatever the emotional pain of it, and it's especially if it's like really intense, it will show up in the physical body.
So the mental illness, and I feel for her, it's like she had a debilitating, crippling disorder.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, at 23 or 24, she just could not take it any. And she had been going to a therapist for a couple of years, but then, and it was on medicine.
Yeah.
But then for the last year, she wasn't.
Yeah.
And her mom, I really, her mom's going to come on the show one day, and maybe
Yeah.
I'll get
Good.
you guys at the same
Good.
time.
Yeah.
They could help. So we've talked about safe zones. We've talked about checking in with yourself. I love where you said that we have to, at some particular point, get comfortable.
Being uncomfortable.
Being uncomfortable.
Feeling the feelings, giving yourself permission to feel what it is that you feel. Even if it's embarrassing, even if it's, it's just hurt so much that you feel like your heart is breaking, is aching. But that's the only way healing can come, is that you allow yourself to feel the emotion and then work through it. What I mean by work through it is process it. What does that mean? Make the connection to what you're feeling, right?
So the why questions, in Mary Kay, I was so involved for so long, I'm still dabbling in it.
Yeah.
But they would say, well, why do you want to be successful? And you'd answer, well, why? You'd answer, why?
Right.
Why? So it's very
It's
similar.
unpacking. It's uprooting.
It's unpacking.
Unpacking and,
And
uprooting. All behavior's motivated, as I said. But do
I don't
you
have
understand?
any more space.
It's like, do you understand why you feel what you feel? And particularly when people go through trauma, especially depending on how severe the trauma was, there's a part in your brain, I believe by God's design, that it protects the person. There's a part of your brain that goes offline because it's so the stimulus is so emotional stimulus, the thought is so overwhelming that your body just sort of goes into this protective mode to protect you. And so what the research shows is that when people go through trauma, they have like spots or like gaps in their memory because there's a certain part of your brain, it shuts down, it goes
just can't
offline.
handle.
It cannot handle that, so
And-
it shuts down to preserve the person. So part of that is just in therapy or someone that's specializes in trauma is helping that person to sort of reintegrate, what happened to them,
Yes.
and then hopefully they can sort of access memory. But some people lose memory in trauma.
But just
know.
talking to you, I'm thinking things with me, I'm thinking things with people I know, how sometimes people, they always want to be in that happy place. I just want to be in a happy place.
And that may be their coping thing,
That,
right?
and I'm hearing that right now.
Right,
And
right.
so sometimes I'm like, why don't they just admit?
Because some people, depending on what happened, it's really painful.
I would think that this would be a lot in the cases of rape
Severe, complex trauma.
or growing up in a home where
Abuse, physical
abuse to yourself or abuse to your parent, to your mom or something like that.
The very people that are supposed to nurture you, take care of you, you're supposed to trust them. Your brain is like trying to figure out, your body's trying to figure, how is it that the person that gave me life is the person that I love, but the very
Right.
person that's hurting me, right?
And you still love them.
And you still love them. So that's the emotional pieces, is like kind of
but
trying to.
there's almost like a love fear, a love hate,
right,
a love.
Right. That's when
Wow.
it gets really complex. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so, like I said, the way that God designed the body.
Oh, wow.
Are we okay? The way that God designed the body is to protect ourselves, from overworking. But with the help of a therapist, it helps to sort of reintegrate parts of the body, parts of the brain that went offline, or that
I'm going to write that down
Yeah.
offline. Because you know what I'm seeing, Doctor, is, okay, I knew this took place physically. My sister Gloria, my oldest sister, she was here my oldest sister Gloria, she got an operation a number of years ago on her back. I remember I went to see her. She was in more pain than I had ever seen anybody in my entire life, to the place where I just told the Lord, if you
Yeah.
have to take her,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. She was in such pain. But you know what? She has no memory
Yep.
of like those 3 days. She has absolutely no memory.
Right.
Because it was so painful. So
Yeah.
you're saying that mentally,
Yep.
the same thing can happen.
Yep. we call neuroscience, right? The study of the brain and what happens when we have imprints of trauma, or imprints of maybe a chronic illness, how it imprints certain, portions of the brain, right? There's 5 regions in the brain, right? And this part is this we call it the smart brain, right? It's the decision making, right? All of that. And so there's different parts of the brain, depending on which is more impacted by the other. If the body, one thing I will say too, what you just described with your sister's that, when you're in a lot of pain like that, it sort of sends your body into sort of like this stress response cycle, right?
Okay.
So there's a part of your brain, we call it the amygdala. It's like the smoke detector part of your brain. And it's sort of like whatever's happening, we have to shut it down because right now the body is overworking, right? So it sends off these sort of cascades of stressor type hormones, like cortisol, et cetera, so forth, to like sort of prepare this individual, like to be, I guess to protect the individual.
Right.
But what happens is that sometimes if it's an ongoing stressor, that part of the brain, which is supposed to turn on and turn off, doesn't come back on,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So it needs to be recalibrated, right? And so that's when we get into, it's just, like I said, it's God's design,
My
right?
gosh. This is just amazing.
God's designed to keep us from
Well, to keep you sane.
to keep you sane, to keep you safe, to keep the balance as much as possible, right? So some parts of something's got to give up there,
Wow, because there's a correlation just now.
Yeah.
I know we are way over time, but I said keep you sane, you said keep you safe.
Safe.
And there is
It's all about
safety
balance.
helps to
Yes.
keep you sane.
Right.
So I guess what you're saying is sometimes we just have to keep our own self in a safe place where sometimes we end up cutting people off
Right.
because you're keeping yourself in a safe place
Right.
to preserve your sanity.
Right.
Wow. You know what? We're going to have you come back. Yeah, no, not a maybe. No, because you've just, when I go over all these notes, you see I have no more room left. But when I go over all these notes, there's going to be questions that I
Yeah.
have. And so, because one of the questions, we don't have time, but like when somebody first comes to you, what do you do? What's the process to get them started? And
So I like to listen.
So you just listen.
I listen because I don't know their story. I want to hear their story because there's a reason why. There's a catalyst reason why you're here in my office. Why
Okay.
you're seeking a therapist. What's the catalyst, right? So I spent the first few sessions or so listening.
This is like Alcoholics Anonymous. Really, you got to admit that you need help. Mm-hmm. First step, you get.
And that's usually the conversation at the consultation point, right there,
Okay.
right? They admit, like, you know what? I tried to do it on my own, whatever that means to them, and it's not working. I need to talk to a therapist, right?
Oof.
So people essentially just want to be understood, right? And that's why I spend a good deal of time just listening. I seek to understand.
So are you taking any clients right now? my sister's on the camera. She couldn't even hold that one in.
Yes and no. It just depends because I try to stay within my specialty, you know, and that's why, yeah.
Well, and because people are listening,
Listening,
right now.
watching, yeah.
And they're watching right now, and I can guarantee you somebody's like, I want to see if I can get an appointment
So
with
yes
her.
and no, it depends. So, I sort of vet people through the consultation process.
So
Yeah.
can we put your number up?
You can put my number up.
Okay, what's your number?
951
Okay.
343
I'm first in line. Go on. Okay.
7193
951
343
343
7193.
7193.
Yeah.
And you know what? In all seriousness, I really do believe that anytime people have not gone through a few sessions
Yeah.
with a therapist, I think it's the same thing with, and there's, I was going to say it's the same thing with never going to a doctor, except
right.
that you have some choices. You can eat right. You control so much of
You
your
don't have to
physical.
have a mental illness.
You can't control your life.
Right.
Which means that
Right.
Everybody at some particular point needs to get to a doctor. We all go to the dentist,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And so on.
Just, yeah,
Right.
so-
and it's just maintenance.
It's just maintenance. So we
You
go to a
know?
dentist so you're not walking around with 3 teeth.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so you
Exactly.
go to the doctor so you,
Right.
But, and for the
And it
therapist,
doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you're, something's wrong with you, imbalance. It's just really talking to someone that's not necessarily close to you that can be a little bit objective, because I said before earlier, we all have blind spots. Sometimes we
Right,
can't
yeah.
see what we see, right? Because we just
But we're going through to a therapist, and I'm about to lose this, but it was
Okay.
We're going through a therapist, so really, so you can be healthy in life. It was something way more profound, but it came and left.
hopefully it'll come
Yeah,
back.
but it'll come back.
Yeah.
But I just think there's not just a purpose in going through a therapist. I think there is a need to go to a therapist so we can know ourselves, because that's what you're saying. And the Bible talks about that. Just knowing yourself.
If I didn't go to my own therapy.
Okay. And if you were in therapy, if you went as part of your program for a year.
Be a therapist, to be honest with you.
Okay, I know we're over time, but tell me why you say that.
I first have to do my own work. I
Okay.
can't sit here and not have done my own work to help someone else get their freedom, their healing, if I haven't done it first, right?
Okay, it's like you can't teach somebody algebra if you don't know algebra.
It's
And I
like
say
it's a
this all the time.
hypocrite.
It's a
I don't know if I can say that word, but
Of course.
it's like if I say to my client XYZ ABC and I haven't done that,
Right.
why am I here?
Right.
Right?
If you just watch cooking shows for all this time, you never cook, but you're trying to teach somebody else how to cook, and all you've done is watch cooking shows until you actually
Until you get in
and
there,
know how
you
to
roll
cook.
up your sleeves and
Yeah.
you feel the
Okay.
feelings and you become uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, and all of that comes with the healing process.
We're definitely going to have you back on again because this is something that is important. It's something that's needed. And next time we're probably going to have some questions.
I have a book. Can I share a book right quick?
Oh, I
those
didn't
that
know
have-
you had a book.
Yeah,
This is-
I sort of snuck it up here.
Okay.
So like I said before, therapy is not for everyone. Everybody doesn't necessarily need therapy.
Okay.
You can talk about what do you do? You talk to people.
Right.
You can get books, right? Read
That's true,
books.
too. Yeah.
Books are great, right? So I don't know if you can zoom in on this, but How People Grow, Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend.
Which camera can
I don't
zoom
know
in?
which
I think
camera
Diana's camera can zoom in.
So this is the awesome book to pick up. I use some of the principles here in this book, How People Grow. They're Christian psychologists. And what I love about their work is that they weave in their clinical experience with what the Bible, the biblical example.
I will
of it. So you
yes.
see both sides of it.
When Pastor and I went to we're going to say that again. When Pastor and I went to therapist a number of years ago, we went to a Christian
Yeah.
psychologist.
Yeah.
To me, it's no different from going to a Christian hairdresser.
Right.
Because she's laying hands on you while
Right,
she's washing.
exactly, right.
So,
and let me just say,
yeah.
everyone that's Christian, not necessarily
Right.
practicing that, so you want to vet. It may take you more than 1 or 2 times to find the right fit, but don't, give
Okay.
up.
Well, we might do a book thing with this.
Yeah, that could be a book study. A family or a
Yes,
group of
this
people
is-
can
I was
do
just
that.
going to say, because one of the things with our women's ministries, we're actually going to start a book club.
Yeah.
But how people grow, what the Bible reveals about personal growth. Dr. Henry
Henry Cloud and John Townsend.
And John Townsend. And this is the author of Boundaries.
Yep.
I just saw that,
Yeah.
the author of Boundaries.
Yeah.
Doctor, thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you for having
and,
me.
we will definitely get you on before the end of the year to
Absolutely.
help give people some
Maybe some tips.
breadcrumbs
Yeah.
going into the new year. Because we don't have to go into the new year with everything that we go. Sometimes we need to take off some of these layers.
Absolutely.
So thank you. I'm so glad that you all joined Dr. Shonda Smith and myself today. This has been absolutely amazing. And we're going to pray you out today. Okay, Lord Jesus, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for Dr. Shonda. Thank you for all the truths about life and about health and our minds that you have revealed to her. And we continue to pray for her and her practice. And then, Lord, for any that are I'm just going to say, so anyone out there that either you're feeling lonely to the point that you cannot function correctly, or this is something with your child, please feel free to call, leave your name, and if you're not even in this area, maybe we can even recommend somebody in your area.
Yeah.
But stop looking at getting a session with a therapist
Right.
as being something that you can't deal with, or as being a stigma. If anything, you're showing how intelligent you are to go to a therapist. Because if a therapist could go to a therapist, then that means all of us need to.
Amen.
So I know we're over, but thank you for joining us, and we will keep you informed when we're going to have Dr. Smith on again. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.